morning. You're watching the DMZ America podcast for Friday, July 31st, 2026. Coming to you from the left, I'm editorial cartoonist Ted Rall.
And coming to you from the frayed and dispirited right, I'm editorial cartoonist Scott Stantis.
Good morning, Scott. How are you doing?
I'm okay. Had a bit of a scare this morning. I thought I caught that. What's the thing going around that's on lettuce that gives you?
Oh, the blasty, like butt blaster.
Yes, butt blaster.
The butt blastolosis, whatever.
So woke up this morning and went, oh my. But it may also have been that I ate a lot of sausage last night. That's not a metaphor, Ted. Don't go there.
I will not go there, but the question is who's going where?
Waka waka. No, we had a low country boil, so I'm going to blame that. Anyway, so feeling better. Thank you for asking.
Oh, good. Excellent.
More information.
I mean, but you didn't really get that thing. It's it was just like a close call.
Yeah, it just felt like a thing. And so, it has since ceased to desist.
I think it's from Taco Bell, right? Is what they said.
That's what the lettuce is from Taylor Farms or something, they think.
Yeah.
But I mean, it kind of makes you wonder what, I listen, picking lettuce and picking produce has got to suck as a job. Okay. I'm not
true.
But what exactly, what exactly are the pickers doing? Because they said, well, it could be feces on their hands.
Well, they're out in the field. They got to go. They probably walk over to the side and then do it. They look, there's no sink there. There's no running water. I bet they may or may not even have toilet paper. Right. And so basically that's what happens.
You run the farm.
Mm-hmm.
You sell your product.
Mm-hmm.
And now this has the potential to destroy your company, your business, your farm.
True.
Why not have a few wipes and maybe some, an outhouse? I mean, a porta potty. This can't be hard. But I guess that would shave off, literally quarters of pennies off of the profit.
Precisely. We can't have that.
No, I'm sorry. I lost my head for a minute, Ted. I forgot. We live in capitalism.
What on earth are you thinking? Well,
I don't know.
That's a good segue to what we wanted to talk about today. So anyway, so we try to focus on we'll talk about anything and everything here, and will again, I'm sure. But I wanted to talk about this lawsuit that is got some really interesting repercussions, and it's in the world of cartooning, which means it's in our bailiwick. So there's a guy named Elmer Saflor. Full disclosure, I've never met him. He's a cartoonist in the Philippines, and he has a webcomic called Super Realmer, and basically
I think it's Super Elmer.
Oh, is it Super Elmer? Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Or you're saying it's not Super Realmer? Okay, so Super Elmer. And anyway, so there's this cartoon that I'm not going to put up because this guy's litigious. So I'm not putting up this cartoon.
Full disclosure, if I could jump in real quick,
please.
We did ask Super Elmer to join us. He did get back to me late last night.
He did?
I told him what the show was and who we'd love to have him on. It's an important issue. And he wrote back, I'm busy Friday.
Okay.
Apparently there's something hopping going on in his Filipino world there in the Philippines.
Yeah.
Although that
could well be true. I mean, well, he is the center of international attention right now. So
go on. I'm sorry. I just wanted.
And he's got and trust me, fighting a lawsuit, as you know, just being peripherally, just by being my friend, it keeps you busy. Yeah. It's a full-time job.
So explain this.
All right. So basically he's done a running away balloon cartoon. He did this cartoon back in 2017. It's a very simple kind of figure. The two panels on the top first panel, you have a guy and he's chasing a ball that is labeled opportunities. And then the second panel shows him looking behind him and grabbing him from around the waist and preventing him from grasping the opportunity is a figure, a blobby monster, and it's pink and it's labeled shyness. And so this has become an internet meme. There's been several cartoons that have become, I mean, if you do enough comics, you'll have a cartoon that will be memed at some point. It's happened to a number of our colleagues. I'm sure happened to you, Scott. It's happened to me. And anyway, so this is one of them. And he filed a lawsuit against a meme app corporation. So
who knew there were such things, by the way? I mean, seriously, I had no idea until this story came out.
Oh, I mean, actually, I did know about this because a number of years ago, I attended South by Southwest. And do you remember Grumpy Cat, speaking of memes?
Sure.
So
Sure.
Grumpy Cat was a real cat that was owned by this waitress. And she was at South by Southwest, and there was the opportunity to meet cats. And of course, I went to meet Grumpy Cat.
Of course.
And because I'm a cat whore. And so Grumpy Cat had a manager, an agent, and was represented by several companies that helped, basically memify Grumpy Cat in the internet. That was a long time ago. I'm going to say that was like 13, 14 years ago. Grumpy Cat has long passed into the great litter box in the sky, but the Grumpy Cat meme went on for years. I'm sure she's back to waiting tables, but it was like a little bit of a income stream for her. So, but this is business, right? So anyway, Southlore is suing Memes Apps LLC. They operate a content creation platform called memes.ai and Memes AI Studio. And basically, they sell paid subscriptions, and they probably have a freemium model, to an ad generator. And basically, it spits out copies of his comic, wait for it, without permission. So he was interviewed by Ars Technica. He said he did not contact the company before he sued and has not seen any copies of examples of his meme used in ads generated by the platforms. However, he filed the suit to compel discovery. Discovery is where you can depose witnesses and subpoena documents, while raising broader questions about how AI-powered platforms use creators' work and what licensing obligations they may have, and how copyright law applies when viral internet culture becomes a commercial product, he said. So it is not clear that he'll be able to proceed, but according to an internet law professor, Eric Goldman, he said that there is some precedent. So in a 2024 case involving another meme, there was a court ruling that said that a certain meme couldn't be used in a campaign ad without permission. At the time, the lawyer blogged that the ruling implied that meme usage for non-commercial purposes is likely fair use, but meme use in ads isn't. However, rather than going after the advertisers who are actually infringing, it's kind of like more challenging to go after the meme generator, because if the court finds that any meme generator would have this problem, the entire infrastructure of trying to template memes for a fee would fall into question.
Oh God, the whole meme economy could collapse.
Thank you.
Jesus.
You totally beat me to it. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh my, I'm sorry. As you're reading this, I'm going, I mean, that's their argument. Do you know how many people are dependent on the meme economy?
There are dozens of people involved.
Oh my God, Ted. I mean, and the other thing is I have to question fair use. Now, you and I, this is peripheral, but it's relevant. And I know people have taken your cartoons, removed the labels or attached labels that you did not put on them. They've certainly done this on my cartoons, and completely and totally changed the meaning of the cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's not fair. I mean, you could say it wasn't for profit. They just did it to be assholes on the internet, right? They just wanted there's some right wing or left wing dipshit just stole your cartoon. and decided to use it for their own purposes. I would not say that that's fair use. Would you?
No, certainly
Okay.
not.
But
No.
but according to what you've just read, it would be. And I think that that's, you know, I don't know. Let me explain for those listening, the two people listening who aren't actual cartoonists. The process we go through, hopefully, if we're doing due diligence and we're doing our job correctly, is we stare at a blank piece of paper. As Jeff McNally said, you stare at a blank piece of paper until beads of blood appear on your forehead. This is hard mental work, trying to be original, trying to create something nobody's seen before, and presents and pushes forward a point of view that, that is unique to you. Then we put it out. In the old days, if you were on staff, you put it in your paper. If you were like Ted, you were syndicated, you sent it out through the syndication. But that was your idea, your child, your baby, your creation. And these assholes would just grab it and totally turn it around. I know I would bet all the money in my pocket right now that Ted's cartoons have been stolen by some right-wing Yahoo and labeled.
It has happened. Absolutely.
Do you have specific examples? I'm trying to.
Yeah, there were like some racist, sort of KKK type publications that took my cartoons and just changed the words to reflect their narrative instead of what I intended.
Oh, they did that to me too. Oh, that's interesting. Apparently that's what they teach at racist school.
It's like, go after the cartoons.
Yeah, go ahead. They're not, I mean, come on. Have you seen a cartoonist?
Yeah, we can take them.
They're lightly armed.
and they'll just very
Yes.
true.
So I mean, and that falls into what Elmer is doing here. And like I said, I reached out to Elmer. Also, full disclosure, I reached out to Mark Fiore, who's been on this show before. He is, and with some other folks, is working on some software where, say, Ted or I or any other cartoonist you can think of can go online, scrub the internet, go to AI and see if AI has used any of your cartoons without permission and is applying it to any of their AI models or any of their other clients. That I reached out to Mark, and Mark, although saying he's busy, did say, I'm on a boat.
Well, yeah. And honestly, if you ever been on a cruise and tried to use the internet connection, you're certainly not going to be able to maintain a video connection.
Is it? I've never been on a cruise. Are they that bad?
Well, yeah, no, the internet is, it's a miracle that it exists at all, but you're going to be lucky to be able to attach like a cartoon and send it to your syndicate. You can. It's just, it's basically like, and then the way back when machine, we go back to 1998. Bill Clinton is dealing with Monica Lewinsky. And
dial-up is
slow. It is. Yeah. You're not quite like.
Do you remember how long did it take you to send a cartoon to your syndicate that way?
Oh, sometimes like 45 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm because if you remember, long distance rates were set by so it was cheapest at 3 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
So I would actually schedule. I had some software I could schedule to send my cartoon via AOL, via dial-up. Anyway, that's a different era, different time.
For sure.
So yeah, so Mark Fiore is on a boat. So we couldn't. I'd love to get his input on this. We're going to try and get him on the show sooner rather than later, than to talk about this type of thing. So does Elmer have a point? I think he has absolutely a point that people cannot steal your work, your intellectual property, and monetize it for themselves.
Well, basically, here's
what they do.
They do, but they shouldn't be able to. So obviously the most, to me, the clearest other example, I can't say it's a precedent because there's a settlement, which is not a settlement is not a court ruling that can be used as a precedent, although a judge might take note of it, but it's not really reliable. So Anthropic, right? Anthropic basically lifted entire books by the zillions. And in fact, Scott, you should go in. There's a database where you can search up your name to see if Anthropic's taken any of your shit. And as part of the settlement, everybody gets like basically a few grand out of it. They didn't bother to ask anyone's permission. They just took it. They just scraped it to train their models.
What rationale could they possibly?
They took like 4 of mine. And
let's put ourselves in that meeting.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'll tell you what happened. So they were like, okay, we need to train all this stuff. Okay. Well, we have 2 ways to do it. We can either reach out to individual copyright holders and get permission, which will, obviously have the advantage of, not making us look like shitheads, and we won't have to deal with pricey litigation in the future. But there's a lot of copyright holders, and we'll have to negotiate individually, and some of them will go easy, but some of them will be very demanding and demand unreasonable sums. On the other approach is we can just take everything and put it into a funnel, as Trunk would say, and then and we'll take it all. It's easier to beg forgiveness than to get permission. Like, fuck it, and then, like, if and when we get sued, it'll become a class action lawsuit. We'll settle everything at once. We'll settle for pennies on the dollar. The end. And that's
okay. So, it's easier to ask forgiveness and permission approach to intellectual property rights.
Yeah, I mean, it's used a lot in capitalism. I mean, it's like there's been buildings that are like national historic landmarks in New York City that developers have just torn down in the middle of the night without even bothering to turn off the gas lines. And they're like, then they pay a fine. It's a lot cheaper to pay the fine than it would have been to litigate and go properly through the community boards and get it done correctly.
Okay, so now he's got the case in the courts. Well, now this, as you know, the slow slog begins.
Yes. Now, interestingly, he seems to have learned a little bit from the Ted Rall versus Los Angeles Times experience. He has not filed suit in local court where the company is HQ'd, but rather in Central District Court. In other words, the U.S. Federal District Court. So he's trying to obviously sidestep California's notorious anti-SLAPP statute, which derailed my case and so many others of people who got fucked over by media companies or big tech companies. I could easily see this defendant filing an anti-SLAPP suit, against this Filipino cartoonist. However, that said, even in federal court, the defendant can make the argument that the state statute for anti-SLAPP ought to prevail, and increasingly federal courts have been taking a positive view of that claim. To me, that's nonsense. But it's the anti-SLAPP thing is like a virus. You can't slap it down, no matter how fucking unconstitutional and toxic the whole thing is. And liberals love it as much as conservatives. It's one of those great things we can all agree on. The individual should be screwed. And so, yeah, but I mean, I do think that's interesting. I can't see that he's represented by counsel. Reading the court documents online, he might be, but it looks like he filed pro se. And paid the $405 filing fee himself. And he's basically, it looks like he's going to try to do this himself from the Philippines. If I were Memes App, if that's the case, I wouldn't be shaking in my boots.
No, I was going to ask 2 questions. First of all, I'm assuming Memes App is headquartered in California.
Yeah.
So that's where he filed suit. Does he have, as a non-American citizen, as a citizen of the Philippines, does he have standing in that case? And 2, does he?
Yeah, it doesn't make any difference. Yeah.
Okay, because I was wondering, why wouldn't you file in the Philippines then? First off, it would be a pain in the ass to.
You could file anywhere in the world, right? Because it's the internet.
Yeah.
All you have to do is prove that. I mean, anywhere on Earth that he could show evidence that his material was used could be a venue for filing suit.
So
one of my regrets is that I didn't sue the LA Times in England.
Why England?
England has very powerful anti-libel laws,
right?
And no anti-SLAPP statute.
Would you have had standing to do that? I mean,
yes,
could you?
Because of the internet, because of LATimes.com.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and the other thing would have been just a royal pain in the ass for them to have to deal with the time difference and everything else. I would just do it just to be annoying.
Well, that's true. I mean, I guess the thing is, you are going to ultimately, if you file suit in a jurisdiction that's not convenient to you, you got to be prepared to travel. And there's going to be, especially if you're pro se, you're going to have to be there for every hearing. If you hire an attorney, then a local attorney will take care of most things for you, but you're still going to have to be around sometimes.
Well, let's just hope the court doesn't meet on Friday, because Elmer doesn't do Friday, apparently. He clearly has a point. He clearly has a case. And this is, why is this germane to cartooning in general, is what we just mentioned a few minutes ago, is that you, a company, memes a lot, LLC, could just say, yeah, we're just stealing stuff from Ted and from Scott and from anyone, and we're just using it. Well, why not? It's already out there. That seems to be the thought process too, is that this stuff's already out there. What's the big deal?
It's already been wildly reproduced. I know for sure one of their defenses would be, if it makes it to trial, which is doubtful, that they would, that they'll say, look, this guy didn't defend his copyright vigorously. Like, for example, that's what happened with Kleenex. The name ended up in the public domain because Kleenex didn't sue every time someone said, like, oh, he blew his nose with a Kleenex, like in a movie or anything. Like, Kleenex was a trademark, and they didn't, basically, or like fridge, right? Fridge is short for Frigidaire. It's a company name. Frigidaire did not defend they weren't litigious the way Disney was. And so it ended up going into the public domain, and courts ultimately ruled that your failure to sue on a regular basis basically is like a tacit, it's like a tacit permission. I guess it's like saying, if you're being gang raped, like, hey, like, now it's open season, anyone can come on in. I think it's ridiculous. The way I look at it is, like, if I have a cartoon and, like, I know that 1 million people have reproduced it illegally without getting permission on their websites or wherever, I still have the right to sue that 1 million and first person if I feel like it, because it's still my fucking cartoon, and what happens to it should be up to me. And I shouldn't have to fight every fight, or even most fights, or even a significant plurality of fights in order to defend it. But that's not the way the courts look at it.
Well, did you ever, on a peripheral, as I so often do, a peripheral issue, did you ever have an editor give you shit about verbiage in a cartoon where you said the people in the cartoon say, I'm going to go Xerox something, or I'm going to use, here's a Kleenex. Did you ever? I actually had editors. This is back when editors would try to make you use the word whom instead of who. I'm not kidding.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I had cartoon editors actually try to make me spell out numbers rather than have Arabic. Right. Yeah. So, like, in other words, if I said, like, there are 3 of us, the number 3, the Arabic character, it's like, instead they'd say, oh, you have to write THREE. And I'm like, not in comics.
Well, and that was always my argument, is that, this is before the court case you mentioned about Kleenex. And I think I used the phrase, we're going to Xerox this, which was, very much in common usage.
Totally. Still is.
There were other copier companies, but come on.
Yeah. Nobody ever said, I'm going to go Canon this.
Yeah. Nobody ever said, I'm going to HP the hell, like 100 of these. And so, yeah, it was, oh my God, Ted, back in the day when these guys, editors this explains the demise of the newspaper business in many ways, who would have absolutely no problem telling you, oh, that should be, whom is it? And I would always come back with, whom the fuck talks that way?
Nobody. Right.
Nobody uses the word whom. I know, but that's the proper use. I go, and then you get copy involved. No, it really doesn't. If it was copy, even if it was copy, nobody talks that way. Nobody uses that word. The language is flexible. And constantly.
Cartoons are pop culture, man.
Yes.
Words don't have to be spelled right. It's like these are the very same people who have no problem with a safe falling on a dude walking down the sidewalk.
That almost never happens.
Yeah, it's like I haven't seen that like ever. Right.
Oh my God. That's so funny. They tried to make you spell out numbers.
Oh, it's happened a bunch of times. The other thing that like in cartooning, like in text, right? Sometimes you'll have a word balloon where you don't end with a period or an exclamation mark. It just sort of ends.
Right.
And that has a certain tone. It's a different tone. It's sort of a little bit more flat affect if you're trying for that. And you'll have editors who will argue with you about that. Like, oh my God, like, like you got to have a period. It's like, it's not missing. I didn't put it in there on purpose.
Well, I mean, we can go off on this tangent forever because I've got a zillion stories. I'm sure you do too. I did a drawing of I forget who it was, a character, and it's drawn from the knees up. And I'm drawing it, and then one fucking editor comes in as I'm drawing it and looks over my shoulder and says, looks like a penis.
What?
I go, well, first off, the drawing's not done. And second of all, that's the shadow of a groin. Groins have shadows because they, we all have that. Most of us.
Sure. Not all.
Well, but, for the most part.
Not Marco Rubio.
No, he doesn't have any balls.
He's like the Ken doll. Yeah.
Yes, smooth. And so because he said that, another editor was walking by and heard him say that, there was a great discussion. I'm going, it's the shading. This is how you draw a groin. This is, and it wasn't Ted. I swear.
And just think about it. Think about that discussion compared to the shit that like Sartre and de Beauvoir talked about.
Yes, precisely. Ted, the end of the story is the guy says, just make it, just draw, just put cross hatching in there.
Cross hatching makes everything get better.
I was going to do that anyway because,
cross hatch Nazi.
Yeah. Sorry, man. Yeah. Crosshatch Nazi. Oh, why didn't I think of that? Where were you 30 years ago?
Poor, just like now.
Yeah. So on copyright stuff, have you gone to ChatGPT or Gronk or any of those things and just typed in draw, they're loath to draw political figures, but I just have like George W. Bush. Mm-hmm. Riding a tank in the style of Ted Rall.
Yeah.
And has it come back looking anything like your style?
I'm going to do that right now while I'm at you here.
So why you do that? Because I can say I've actually typed in, have a shark driving a convertible through the Sonoran Desert in the style of, and I've done it with Scott Stantis, I've done it with Ted Rall, and I've done it with Pat Oliphant. All three from both of those, and I used ChatGPT and Gronk.
Grok.
All three of those came back not looking anything like what I asked them to look like.
Yeah, I'll post it up and look at it. It's working on it right now. Thinking about your request.
Thinking. So, I'm not sure if you want it. I don't know if you'd want it to come back looking like, oh shit, it looks like I drew.
Yeah, that would be bad. Yeah.
But you'd like it to come close. It didn't, these samples never came close to any of your work, my work, Pat Oliphant's work. It was really, really interesting and an interesting experiment. But the fact that this company clearly, Memes app, scrubs the internet for memes and then says, hey, if you're Joe's Plumbing and Electric Supply there in Dayton, Ohio, we can come up with a meme for you.
Yes, you can.
Which would make, I'm not sure why, a plumbing and electric supply company would need a meme, but I'm sure their social media person probably would come to them and say, you know what you need?
Everyone needs, who doesn't need their own meme?
God, and every 5 seconds. Janine was reminding me, my wife was reminding me the other day of how the newspapers just on a there. Now, you said draw that in the style of Ted Rall?
I will quote exactly my prompt.
Okay.
Create a cartoon in the style of Ted Rall of George W. Bush riding a tank.
It's a very realistic. It looks very much, who it looks like is, oh gosh, who was the artist on War is boring or
Oh,
no, Warfix.
Warfix. Who?
You were on a panel for that. This looks like a comic book
I don't
artist.
know. Oh, that's Steve Alexa.
This looks like his work, and
yeah, that's true.
Has nothing to do with you at all.
No.
So just for those who are actually listening to the podcast, Ted's posted the art that came up, and it really does look like a fairly realistic rendering of George W. Bush and a fairly realistic, albeit out of proportion, rendering of him inside of a tank.
Mm-hmm.
It looks very much like a comic book sketch. This is amazing.
It looks nothing like something I would draw. Right.
Absolutely nothing like something you would draw. That's really astounding. That because
it doesn't see, so yeah. What do you take from that? Like the fact that
well, I mean,
it doesn't seem to know what it's doing.
Your work's not on the internet at all, so maybe that's where it's handicapped.
Yep, I keep everything analog, old school.
Yeah, you have to buy the books.
Fish wrap only. It must be in the morning newspaper, delivered straight to your door
by Jimmy on his bicycle. Yeah,
before he's killed by Jeffrey Dahmer.
I can't imagine what would that have. I mean, maybe it looked at some, because you have partnered with other artists. I'm thinking of the Stringer being among them.
Pablo Vallejo.
But have you partnered with other comic book artists like that?
What do you mean, like the
artist you partnered with for the Stringer?
Well, something you and I are working on, but it hasn't seen the light of day in terms of the internet. So no. No.
Okay.
I mean, Matt Boras and I he got basically part of the way through a book and then crapped out.
This doesn't look anything like Matt Boras' work.
No.
This is very, very strange. And I mean, but it reminds me very much of the.
It's kind of flattering. It's kind of giving me credit for better draftsmanship than I actually have.
It's actually not a bad drawing. I mean,
not really. No, it's not a bad drawing. It's just not a Ted Rall drawing. It's not even a Ted Rall-ish drawing.
No, it really isn't. And it kind of reminds me of the column you wrote for the Wall Street Journal a few years back when you did. Tell me about the relationship of Ted Rall and Scott Stantis. It just went off on this tangent, how we hate each other. I accused you of plagiarism.
Well, we were both up for the same Pulitzer.
I know, which was great.
And apparently we were part of we had a literary feud going, the likes of which Gore Vidal and Norman Mailer could only dream about.
It was very strange. Now, where the hell did it get that?
It just made that up and just said, yeah.
Oh no, it's amazing. Did you see this on? There was a recent a teacher who was teaching a course, and they injected a word. I'm not sure how they did it into what an AI model would look for. And 33 of the 35 students failed. I mean, 38 students, 33 of 38 students failed because they got caught using AI to write their paper because it had this word in it.
What was the word?
I can't remember.
Superfractalosis.
Probably Super Elmer.
Maybe. Super Elmer doesn't work on Friday though. So, I don't know. I mean, look, I think the truth is everybody all young people, which is to say people under 45, they're all using, AI to write shit. I mean, look, I absolutely, if I'm writing like a cover letter or something like that, I mean, I know how to write a cover letter. I'm a good writer. I've won awards for writing. I don't want it, but if there's this machine that will, that'll gin up some dross for me, that like a cover letter, and I can just, do that quick and then make a few edits and send it out. Of course I'm going to do that. I mean, that's human nature. Why would you not avail yourself of a tool that's going to make your life easier? There's no reason not to.
Well, but we did have Sarah Davison on a few weeks ago, and she's a graphic novelist, and she mentioned that in her contract with Random House, I believe it was, They said under no circumstances can you use AI in either the text nor the art, period, in any way, shape, or form. So what you're saying is, I mean, I agree with you. There are times when I was producing Prickly City, my comic strip, and I would type in prompts for here's what I'm thinking of this week. Can you give me 6 scripts? And it would. None of them were any good.
Right.
This will shock you. AI does not have a sense of humor.
Mm-hmm.
It sort of reminds me.
Yeah, AI does not know what's funny. Hey,
it sort of reminds me of the line.
Let's ask AI for a joke. I'm going to ask AI for a joke. Let's choose a topic. What should be the joke? What should this joke be about? Would you say?
Oh, let's do it. A meme company stealing original art from a guy named Elmer.
Give me a joke about big tech companies stealing intellectual property from cartoonists.
From Elmer.
From Elmer the cartoonist. Who does not work on Fridays.
Does not work on Fridays. We're going to post this on a Friday, so he may never see it.
Oh my God, here we go. Here's the joke. Okay. All right.
Okay, wait, are you ready? Wait, think of the kind of voice you're going to use.
All right, here we go. Why did big tech keep stealing Elmer the cartoonist's work? Because they figured Running Away Balloon was public domain the second it went viral, and then they sold the subscription plan for $9.99 a month so everyone else could steal it too. Wow.
Is it?
That's worse than I expected. I thought it was going to be horrible, but it was sub-horrible.
It obviously scrubbed the internet, found the story, and just pegged. Does it give you more than one joke?
No, that was. I know what I'm going to say. I'm going to say that was jokes. Unfunny. Give me 2 more and make them hilarious. All right, here we go. I'm a mean AI guy. Joke 1.
Here we go.
Elmer the cartoonist finally caught big tech red-handed stealing running away balloon. Their defense? Your Honor, we didn't steal it. We just ran it through our AI, added a slightly different string, and now it's $9.99 a month subscription. Fair use, right? The balloon is still running away. Just into our banking account. Wah, wah.
Wah.
Okay.
God.
Wow.
Oh, that is so bad.
That is at least there is a joke there. It's not a good one, but there is one. The other one didn't even have a joke. The joke number 2, big tech's official statement on using Elmer's cartoon without permission. We deeply respect intellectual property. That's why we carefully copied every single line of Running Away cartoon, monetized it in our meme generator, and are now prepared to pay him the whole statutory damages in the form of free premium access to the very template that steals his work. So there's no joke there at all. There's not even a bad joke. There's no joke.
There's something like a joke wanting to come out.
Yes. Like it wants to transition to a joke.
What's oh God, it represents itself. What's the word I'm thinking of in trans?
Yes, it presents as a
as a joke.
Wow.
Yeah, so there was no when I was using it to work on my comic strip, there was really no threat that I was going to use anything they gave me, but it was a nice little jump start on your brain to say, okay, here's maybe one way to go. It's fascinating to me that the AI that you're using just seems fixated on the $9.99 subscription.
Yeah, my AI is very greedy and very capitalistic, and it's resentful of the fact that this company is collecting money.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, the AI you're using was free, right?
No, I pay for my AI.
Oh, okay.
So
wow.
It's Elon Musk's grok. So,
well, he needs the money, God knows.
Well, I pay it because it's X Premium, and X is the only it's the only social media that allows any political content not to be throttled. So grok comes for free with it.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
I'm okay. So where are we with all this? I mean, we've been going running, conversationally. Where are we with this? I mean, you and I have had our work stolen. We've had our work reprinted.
Like all cartoonists, yeah.
Yes, and back in I can remember as early as the '80s when someone in a newsletter used a high profile, widely dispersed newsletter used my cartoon, and I had to call him and say, dude, you got to pay for that stuff. He says, why? It was in the paper. I'm like, because it was in the newspaper. I have a story
about that.
Oh, please.
Keep going. No, keep
that
going.
Was it.
So what happened? So did they pay?
I didn't have a syndicate, and my newspaper at the time didn't give a shit. So,
well, early on in my career, I had the NYU student newspaper published my cartoon without permission. And they literally saw it in the New York Times and like reproduced it from the New York Times. And so it looked about as good as you can imagine, right? Like, I mean, it's like my work doesn't really need any help looking primitive. So like, thanks guys. And so it was horrible. It had like more moray patterns than all the moray eels in the world.
Oh God. God. I remember those.
It was bad. Anyway, the point is I called them up and I was like, look, I appreciate that you like my work, but you can't really do it without permission. I tell you what, because I used to try to turn people into a client. I said, how about if for X dollars a week, you can run my stuff? And the editor just goes, fuck you, and hangs up on me. So
you're kidding.
So I called back up, not pleased. And I'm like, fuck you, fuck me, fuck you. And then I, went and took him to small claims court, and they had to pay me $1,500 for that cartoon,
which is more than he would have had to pay.
Oh, it was a tiny student paper. It would have been like $25 or $50.
So who were you taught? Was this a student editor?
That was the editor in chief of the student newspaper of New York University, which is a large institution.
Wow, I guess they didn't. I guess they did teach him editorship there at that.
And now he's at the New York Times. Yeah,
God, nice. He's fired Scott twice. Wow, what a story! I've had. I mean, like I said, it was a learning moment for them that you can't just because it's in the newspaper doesn't mean it's free.
Yeah, it was like what? Like it's especially like you're running a newspaper, you wouldn't want. You don't think the stuff you're running in the paper is free for anyone. Why would you think that?
I think it
makes no sense.
Trying to think, it was one of those. It was some mega church in Orange County, California back then, and I just saw it. I was just like, and like you, I was like, oh, that's cool. I mean, obviously they saw the work, they liked it, they ran it. They didn't change it. They didn't, they didn't add new labels. Ronald Reagan wasn't labeled Jesus or anything.
That only happens now, really.
Yeah, that only happens now. Beginning from that in our careers, where, like you said, you saw it in the student newspaper, I saw it in a church bulletin, and then going forward, as we got syndicated, as we had newspapers that protected our copyrights and so on, it became less and less, but it still happened. And now we're right back where we started, because I don't think syndicates would have the balls to go after anybody. Frankly, I'm not even sure they have the wherewithal to do it. And for those of you, again, who aren't familiar with the business, syndicates are they're our distributors. So part of what they get for 50% of the income from what they sell is legal protections from things like this. So I'm not sure that syndicates would really fight that hard for someone like you and I. One of their legacy strips, if someone took a Peanuts or a Blondie and did something like that, they probably would, but not schlubs like us. And it's always been a frustration. I was dealing with, well, I can say it because he's dead, Jack Higgins in Chicago. And Jack, at the time, something was going on. We weren't sure what. With his mental acuity. And I would do a cartoon in the Tribune, and then a few days later or a week later, there'd be an extremely similar cartoon in the Sun-Times by Jack. And I would tell my editor, are we going to do anything about this? And his response was almost always, he is, he was laid off. He wasn't full time on the Sun-Times at the time. He was did contract work for them. You have a full-time job. Don't worry about it. And there's some, level of equanimity there, but, I sent Ted.
I worry.
I do worry because it's like I work hard on these ideas, Chicago-centric ideas.
I don't care if you fart them out of your diuretic asshole. The fact is, they're your fucking ideas. They belong to you. I mean, property rights we live in a country that if it means anything, property rights are the only thing that matter, right? I mean, we don't respect your privacy rights, God knows, but you own something, you made it, you own it, it's yours, and no one else can use it unless you say it's okay. I mean, the whole I don't know how hard it was for you to make that. That's neither here nor there, right?
Yeah. It reminds me of the Napster argument. And again, I'm going to come clean and say I did. I actually had the Napster app. I got rid of it after I heard some of the arguments.
After you downloaded about 500,000 songs.
Well, yeah, of course.
Hey, just for the record here, OG, always physical media.
I know, it's so weird that you still get CDs.
I do.
I mean, it's cool, but it's like, wow. Do you still listen to vinyl too?
Yeah. 100%.
Wow. I don't have a record player. I probably would. I think I would if I turned on a record player. I bet.
By the way, record players have never been nicer. I mean, what you would buy today as a record player for say $600 would have been like a $4,000 record player back in the 80s.
Oh God, remember back then? Oh my God,
like the B&Os and stuff like that.
Oh, you would go to the stereo store and they'd have like the turntable. Do you remember had dots on it and had light? The strobe light, and if you had to, so the speed of the turntable could be accurately calibrated, and the needle, would go down just right. And I would imagine. Do you find there's a difference between that and listening to CDs, or more to the point, listening to digital music?
Yeah, look, I have an audiologist. I don't even have like the best hearing, and I can tell the difference. I mean, for sure. I mean, look, music is music. Is listening to an MP3 like dog shit? No, I mean, it's still music. You're still going to get the experience. But, over time, if you listen to a lot of music, it makes a difference. It's not like, it's just not that easy to, it's hard to articulate why it makes a difference. But but CDs do sound better than MP3s. LPs do sound better than CDs. It's just true.
Okay. I think that warm, when you put the needle down, you hear the
so good.
And then I just think it adds a level that
it does. It does. There's no question about it.
So the Napster, I'm having a mind fart here, Ted. How did the Napster case finally end? And where did it finally end? They finally shut it down.
I think Napster still exists.
Napster exists as a subscription model, right? I mean, they kind of made it into the Spotify / what was the other? Oh, I had it for years. It starts with a P. It was they actually had a headquarters for a short period of time in the Tribune Tower in Chicago. Oh dear Lord.
So basically, I'm looking up Napster. So basically what happened was they lost in court, got destroyed. All of the people who ran Napster had to pay out millions of dollars to the record companies.
But Spotify fucks over creators like crazy, right? I mean, they get pennies.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, I mean it's or Pandora, any of those companies. Yeah.
Pandora. That's what I was thinking.
Literally, if you were to if you buy a CD off like a band's website, that's the equivalent of like 150,000 listens for the artist.
See, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's not regulated.
How do you make money today if you're a musician?
You tour and you sell merch.
Yeah.
It's the only way.
It's like cartooning has changed. Now you can't just draw cartoons and hope that that's it. Remember that there have been stories and stories and stories about back in the day of musicians who just did studio albums. They never toured.
Yep. Yeah. Like the Alan Parsons Project was famous that way.
Yeah. They just made money selling albums. Well, you sell 1 million of something, you can make some money.
Yeah.
But if you're being paid, well, if you get $1 an album or more, but now you get pennies. I mean, it's like cartooning. We get, you can become huge on the internet.
Yes, it'll be awesome.
Yeah, it'll be absolutely phenomenal. And I just anyway, we can talk about internet cartoonists some other time because they always boiled my blood because the guy who did XKCD or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's it.
I wrote to him when I've kind of stumbled across it years ago, and I liked it. I thought that was clever and funny.
Yeah, he was a smart guy.
Do you know him?
No. Well.
So I texted through his contact info on his website and said, "Hey, listen, I really like your work." And he wrote back a really shitty little note. It was ending with, "So how's that print thing working out for you?"
Oh, brother.
I went, "Well, firstly, fuck you. Second,
pretty well. Yeah.
Yeah. I said, secondly, oh God, what am I trying to think here? Fuck you. And thirdly, oh yeah, fuck you."
And also,
but then after a year or two later, he started coming out with books, ink on paper,
print.
Ted.
Dead trees.
Mm-hmm. And so I wrote to him again. I said, "So
how's that print thing working out for you?"
Exactly.
Hilarious. What a twat.
Oh yeah. No, it was really, I was just like, really? I mean, someone reaches out and says, "Hey, I'm a big fan." And Ridiculous. Your reaction is, "Fuck you. I don't need you."
Well, yeah, these web cartoonists really, which I still don't understand the whole distinction here. Like a web, like there's just cartoonists, right? And like, it's like cartoonists are just cartoonists. And it's like, well, we've committed fully to the web. They don't do anything that other cartoonists don't already do. I mean, every cartoonist is on social media. Every cartoonist has a website. Every cartoonist has an online version. Every cartoonist sells merch. Every cartoonist caters to their fans online. I mean, there's literally absolutely no difference except that they're not in print. And really, increasingly, nobody else is either.
Exactly. So no, and they sell a lot of plushies and books and other things. And
we just don't care that much about plushies, but whatever.
Well, I mean, you can make money. I mean, I tried to came up with plushies for my comic strip and worked on, worked with some companies and the price point and so on. Yeah, I can see where you can make some serious money off those damn things. It's weird. Just saying.
Let's talk a little bit before we go about, the quixotic nature of a lawsuit like mine against the LA Times or this guy's, not working on Fridays, thing against this meme generator. I mean, the powerlessness, we've alluded to this throughout here. You've especially alluded to it, Scott. The powerlessness of artists, creatives in our space. I mean, is that something that's it's destined to be that way forever? I mean, is there anything we can or should do as a society to try to empower people and protect their intellectual property after they create it in order to, motivate them in order to do it?
I think you're faced with a big problem with artists and artists. I mean, we talked about musicians. So I'm going to lump them in this as well. We're idiots financially. There's a reason we went into cartooning. There's a reason we got most of us
are overgrown children.
Yeah, effectively. We don't understand money. How many conversations have you had, Ted? You're probably one of the best at this, at really running your own business because you've had to for years.
Yeah.
I've had cartoonist friends, and I know you have too, who said, "Hey, I got this guy asking if I'd work for him. What should I charge them?" First
money.
of all, if
try asking for money,
I'd say American money.
It's the starvation alternative.
the Zairian dollar just doesn't go as far as it used to.
It's not what everybody thinks.
So I would say, but to ask that question, many of these guys were in their 40s, 50s. You can't answer that question. And my answer by the way, the answer briefly is work out an hourly rate for yourself. You know, what you think is fair. What's your time worth? Years ago, you know, it used to be mine was worth $5 an hour, $10 an hour, $20 an hour. And it obviously scaled up as time progressed and my profile grew and my skill set grew. And to the point where, you know, but suggest to an artist, charge $100 an hour. Start there. Ted, I can't tell you how many cartoonists would gasp, literally gasp at that amount. I'm going, okay, let's be honest. How many hours are you going to spend on this project? 4 hours. Is $400 going to break their bank? And is that going to, you know, make it worthwhile to you?
Right.
You know, and they still would go, wow, that's a lot of money. I'm going, how much did you want to charge? My point is, artists are idiots. Cartoonists are morons. Musicians are just as stupid as the rest of us in this profession. We don't know how to charge and we don't know how to protect ourselves. That's why syndicates for decades had a 50-50 cut of what we made.
True.
I mean, think about it. What other business has a 50-50 cut? I mean, besides the Colonel and Elvis, who else has that kind of split? And it's egregious. It's wrong. Ted and I, we can talk about this now. When I jumped to United, largely because Ted was there and an executive there, I thought if they had the good sense to hire him, I should probably jump. But we worked out, as an existing list was 80-20. And the list at that point was over 5 years old. So they had done the work. They had made the money. They'd recouped the cost of selling the product. They weren't selling it anymore. So why not let the creator actually reap the benefits? And you were all for this. I'm assuming you had some pushback from others at the syndicate.
Of course.
But God bless you. You did it. That's still enforced in my contract today. And I mean, but how many cartoonists have the balls to do that, to demand that they be treated well? So when they see this, I mean, you know, I'm having you and I sent you an example yesterday of a cartoon of mine that was clearly stolen by another cartoonist who was a Pulitzer finalist this year.
Yes. No, that, you know, as you know, I haven't always agreed like, oh, this is a clear-cut case, but this is definitely a clear-cut case in my view.
Yeah. And so what do you do with it? I mean, and I asked, and I sent it to you and you said, let's let the internet decide. I'm going to try that. Maybe we'll post it next podcast. We can talk about
let's do that. Let's do it. We'll let DMZ decide.
Yes, the fair people of our podcast will be the arbiters of justice.
That's right. And whoever is found guilty will be executed on live camera.
Ooh, that'd be okay. Yeah.
I mean, that'll get our ratings up from 7 live watchers to 9.
Oh man. Anyway,
right.
I think we're there.
We're there. It's 12 noon. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. DMZ America podcast comes to you live at Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern time to 12 noon Eastern time every single week, except for those times when it does not. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Please tune into the Deprogram show Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., or TMI show 10 a.m. to 11 a.m., also Monday through Friday. And, of course, you can stream or listen anytime. Thanks and take care. Bye.
Why do appear every time you are near? Just like me, they long to be close to you and steal your memes and your other art and not monetize it for you
at all.
Bye.
At all.